Are you going to be there in Washington for this meeting, jetting off after this? Have you been part of this conversation?
No, I'm jetting off after this, but not to Washington. And so we're interested in seeing what comes out of the meeting. There's still a lot in motion, let's say, right now, Caroline.
What do you think really is in motion? Is it a broader diplomatic sort of ping pong that Vance, it seems, is mainly leading the charge in? Or is it actually just trying to work out which bid works best for the US law?
Yeah, I think it's really beginning to digest what the real issues are here, what's really in that legislation upheld by the Supreme Court, meaning where does the algorithm sit, who has access to it, for example. The fines, huge fines here for any violation of the law.
Yes.
And who is responsible for those fines. So I think that now we're getting to the point of a real analysis of the law and the Supreme Court ruling, and what is a legitimate bid? What is a real transaction where one could buy TikTok, US TikTok, and meet the spirit and the letter of the law?
Let's go to your offer, because as it stands, you don't want the algorithm. That fits the letter of the law, right? Correct.
Yes, it does. And that's fundamentally the point here. You can't dodge that issue. The algorithm is, along with the source code, the way that China is able to manipulate what Americans read, see, and eventually think about issues. And this is highly dangerous for America. And that's why the legislation was passed with a broad bipartisan support. And so we now have a set of issues where you need to completely disentangle from the Chinese technology in order to have a bid that complies with the law. And the reason why we still believe our bid, our offer for US TikTok, is the only offer that actually meets the letter and the spirit of the law. We don't want or need the algorithm because we have a clean stack that we've been building for the last 5.5 years.
We understand there are 4 bidders. I'm going to go into one of them more cleanly in a minute. But who else do you understand to be the bidders out there at the moment?
I'm not 100% sure. I've heard the number 4. I don't believe there are 4. And I think that there may be a mixing and matching of bidders that we're hearing about as well. So I think it's all very much a fluid situation right now, Caroline, and we'll learn more this afternoon.
This afternoon, we understand that President Trump is hearing the latest ideal around Oracle being part owner. They are already an infrastructure provider. And Project Texas, which was thought of under the previous administration, was meant to be the way in which Oracle could preserve, ultimately, the data of US citizens within using TikTok. Is that going to be a legitimate way that TikTok is sold here in America?
Let's think about source code and operational code, or algorithm. The issues are not just where it sits, but who has access to it. And this is the source code or the algorithm could sit somewhere, but if China still has access to it, that's highly problematic. And I think at the end of the day, China has been clear. It seems to me anyway that they've been crystal clear. They're not letting go of the algorithm. And what also seems to me crystal clear in the legislation is that any bid that includes the algorithm is not going to meet the criteria laid out in the law. So there's the issue. And again, I go back to the reason why we made the bid and did it on behalf of Project Liberty. It was not because we set up Project Liberty to purchase US TikTok. We set up Project Liberty to bring forward the set of issues that are problematic with the current tech design that we have right now. It just so happens that TikTok was an opportunity that presented itself where we stepped forward and said, hey, why don't we turn a problem into a solution here? Let's buy US TikTok, move it over to a clean stack where you and I control our identity, control and own our data, permission its use, and basically have a different internet, which I would argue will be vastly better for people, vastly better for democracy, for society, and for children.
You want a decentralized future of social media. At the same time, the administration is trying to weigh up future relationships with China. We also know that President Trump really liked using TikTok as a way in which to tell his message during the campaign to the younger audience. When you think about the potential Oracle bid, you said it's very fluid, but who else might be joining that? We've heard of Blackstone, we've heard of VCs, for example. Do you know any other players that might be getting into that bid?
Well, we've talked to, I believe, all of the existing investors in ByteDance, U.S. investors in ByteDance. And I think all or most all would be happy to stay involved in the transaction. I mean, why not, Caroline? It's better to spin off a company, keep an interest in it, hope for the best, rather than have the company shut down.
So General Atlantic you're talking about?
So all these names that you're hearing, they're all around the deal because they have an interest in the deal. As far as President Trump and his affinity for TikTok, we can create a version of TikTok that he'll like just as much, if not more, because it will do the same good things without putting Americans at risk.
Do you think there's any way that we get a deal by the deadline of the 5th?
I personally think that's highly unlikely, but we'll know more this afternoon or certainly by the 5th.
And are they coming to you directly? Who are you speaking to within the administration?
Our conversations have been with the Vice President and the Vice President's office.
And the leaning you get from Vice President Vance, is he taking into consideration the future of how social media works within the United States, the future of an algorithm being in China or not? Or is he seeing this much more as a diplomatic effort?
Oh, you'd have to ask the Vice President that. I certainly hope he's seeing the broader issues of the future of the internet, and I know he's concerned about our national security.
Many are also questioning just the price point. What would you be willing to pay without the algorithm, without the so-called secret sauce?
Well, we've put a number of $20 billion on the assets without the algorithm, and so and we're sticking by that. We think that's a very full number for just the user base and the data. We're not getting all that back end, but we don't want or need the back end, and that's the point, right? We've built it, which is why we happen to be in the right place at the right time for this transaction. We meet the spirit and the letter of the law. We keep U.S. TikTok lit up, and everybody wins.
Is there any way that they go back to Congress and re-offer this deal? Is there any way that that law ends up not sticking?
I can't see it. I can't see it. This was a law passed for good reason. And as I said earlier, highly, broadly bipartisan. People saw clearly the national security issues associated here and the risk to the United States and to U.S. citizens. It was a law that was appropriately passed, one of the few that was passed with bipartisan support, and in the speed at which it was passed. Signed by the president, upheld by the appellate court, upheld by the Supreme Court. 12 judges said this is a valid law. This is a real set of national security issues. 0 judges were on the other side of that. Many of the same people that voted for this law are in the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. They understand the issues, and that hasn't changed. And what I want to emphasize is there is a solution to this. There's a solution that meets the criteria of the legislation, keeps TikTok lit up, protects American citizens, and begins to show the way of a new internet.
Will current users of TikTok love your vision of the internet as much as they love the algorithm in China?
I think they're going to love it more. We call it the people's bid because we're going to Green Bay Packer it, give them a piece of it, let them actually benefit financially from the growth of the platform and the value there, not just from the business they create on the platform, but why not give them a piece of the entire platform so that they can benefit from the equity that's built up in the platform itself.